How much money do I need in order to retire comfortably? You're not going to like this answer, but the answer is it depends. However, we are so fearful of financial distress and the fear of the unknown when it comes to retirement that we deliberately choose not to talk about it. And the fear of running out of money during retirement is a very scary thought. Until you don't get your finances in order today, it is impossible to plan for the future. So guys, by the end of these sessions, you will know based on the calculations that I will provide how much you need in order to retire and live the lifestyle that you want. All right, friends, now that you have your budget, a budget which is cash flow positive, a budget in which you will save for tomorrow, and a budget which you promise to follow. And by the way, my name is Manu, and welcome to another episode of Sweet Money. I said it in my last video, I will say it again. Do not make up arbitrary numbers off the top of your head because it sounds right. I want you to go at a very micro level and understand your spending habits. You have to understand where are you being efficient. You have to understand how to self-criticize. These are the 7 questions you will have to answer in order to derive that magic number you seek. Income required to support your retirement lifestyle based on today's price index. The hardest question to answer is how many years will you live after retirement? Compounded inflation during retirement. What is the compounded inflation from now until retirement? Compound your current investment portfolio till your date of retirement. Any drop or increase in income by decade during retirement, the difference between your current portfolio versus your desired income equals how much you need to invest in order to cover the difference. Now let me pause this for a second so you can absorb this number 7, which is very important. To answer question number 1, what kind of lifestyle you want to live when you retire, in order for that, you'll have to create a budget. Now, the difference between the budget from our last video and this video is that last video was based on reality. This budget is based on a desirable lifestyle that you would like to live during retirement. This hypothetical lifestyle will be based on today's price index. Now, when creating this budget, instead of starting off with our income the way we did in our last video, we will start off with our expenses. And once again, just like last time, we will have 2 columns, needs and wants. Then those 2 columns, needs and wants, will be further split into 4 columns. Column number 1 under needs is the description of the expense. Column number 2 under your needs is the amount. And then for wants, it's description of the expense, and then of course the amount for the want section. So when you create a budget where you start from your expenses and work your way up, it's called a bottom-up approach. And when you start from your income and work your way down, you've probably guessed it by now, it's called the top-down approach. And this, my friend, is the extent of an accountant's creativity. Now, once again, go grab that dreaded pencil, pen, and calculator, because you and I will be doing some math. If you watch the first part of the series in its entirety and you've come this far, Brother Manu is super proud of you. I sincerely want you to become a wolf and have complete control of your finances, and more importantly, have a healthy relationship with your money. Without further ado, let's get started. Question number 1, how much income do you need during retirement with today's price index? In the needs section, enter the following expenses: your living expense, your rent, your mortgage, condo fees, property taxes. And once again, for each of these subheaders, I need an individual line. Be very granular so you have the full picture of where your money is allocated. Utilities, groceries, medication. Now, predicting your ailments down the road can be very tough. However, if you have a family history of diabetes, cholesterol, or blood pressure, that can be a good starting point. And if you're Indian, I recommend you put all three. I mean, if you don't believe me, just keep buying those samosas for $1 and you'll see for yourself. Clothes, phone, internet, telecommunications. And again, you don't know what's going to happen down the road, so create that slush fund. You might need a wheelchair. You might have arthritis or hip problems. You might need someone to come in and clean your house from time to time. So have that slush fund in your back pocket. Ask your parents, ask your grandparents, ask your neighbor, what are they spending their money on? See how old they are. What's their lifestyle like? How much are they traveling? What are they spending their money on when they travel? And use that as a crutch to help you build your budget. Medical insurance is a big one. People like to avoid insurance like the plague, but trust me, down the road, it will be your best friend. When you ask a middle-aged working individual, what's the number one thing you want to do when you retire? Most of the people say travel, and that's fantastic. But where will you travel to? How many trips a year? What do you plan on doing? All these questions will help you determine how much income you will need down the road. The biggest challenge of several is that we don't know how technology will impact our life. What we do know is that wherever technology has integrated itself, those products have become cheaper. However, service has become more expensive. So just keep that in mind. And remember, the more micro you get, the better off you are. The trap in a budget is when we don't think of something and it ends up happening. The unknown is what gets us every single time. Therefore, keep this in mind. Healthcare every single day is getting more and more expensive. The concept of government taking care of you when you retire is now coming to an end. That gravy train has stopped. Wealthy people are now going abroad to get medical attention because the government system is failing in Canada. So you have to be very wary of this, that down the road, we might have a two-tier system in Canada, just like the US and around the world. And I think it's inevitable at this. And the reason why I feel we need a two-tier system is number one, we have to retain our doctors. Number two, the rich, like I said, are already going abroad. So why not keep that money within our country as opposed to sending it elsewhere? And C, it will reduce the burden on the public system. And D, the government is practically bankrupt and it's a great way to help reduce the debt. Now that you've created your expenses and you've allocated these expenses between your needs and your wants, you are now able to identify how much income you will need based on today's price index. Question number two, how many years will you work? This sounds like a very easy, straightforward question, but I have seen this in my lifetime where people want to work till the age of 65. What ends up happening is at the age of 58 or 61, they end up being let go from their company. They're trying to find a job at that same level and same pay. Let's call a spade a spade. It becomes very difficult to land into an equivalent parallel position after a certain age. Be very conservative of when you will work till. When you build your income out from now until you retire, make sure you plan for a dip for the last 5 years so you've built in a cushion. And guess what? If you just keep working till you retire at that desired salary, kudos to you. You now have more money than you had anticipated. Now, this is the part of the show that you're all waiting for, which is the part in which you give me some SLC. SLC is subscribe, like, and comment. In addition to losing your job, which can throw a major wrench into your retirement plans, health also becomes a factor. If you, again, like I said, if you have a family history of certain ailments, that can infringe on you as well. So be ready for that, prepare for that. Going back to question number two, like I said, it's not as easy to answer as you think it is. Give it some thought. See what's happening in your industry that you work in. How is technology going to affect your job moving forward? Are you pivoting to protect yourself as AI and technology starts evolving the way certain tasks and services are performed? Question number three. factoring inflation into your calculation. Up until the end of 2021, 2% was a standard inflationary rate. Now, I'm a self-proclaimed party pooper and a little conservative. I have always used 2.5%. But what happened between 2022 and 2024 can repeat again. And if anyone says to you with a straight face that it can't, they're lying, because no one knows, and that's a matter of fact. Q4 2024, 2% is being promoted as the inflationary rate for 2025 and beyond. I urge you to use 3.5%. Reason being, this world, as we are right now, is going through some major changes. Political parties are changing, wars are happening, technology is having a major impact on our way of living. Climate change is a real thing. Whatever caused it, I don't want to get into it, but it is a real thing. So floods are happening, drought, so on and so forth. We had snow in Saudi Arabia in the month of November. I mean, it was unheard of. So we just don't know what will impact us when and how. Be conservative. It's the name of the game, and I urge you to use 3.5%. But whatever you want to use in your calculation is up to you. But once again, the point is, give it some thought. It's not as easy as plugging a number because someone told you to use this number. Use a number which makes sense to you. But the rule is, be a little conservative. It's okay to be a party pooper. Question number 4, inflationary rate when you retire. Again, you're probably going to think to yourself, well, if I'm using 3% from now until retirement, why don't I use 3% after I retire? I'll tell you why. Most retirees expect to travel and travel significantly. Depending on where you want to travel, the inflation and the cost index in those countries are very different. Do you plan on leaving the country you currently live in? Do you plan on splitting your time between two countries? Do you plan on traveling extensively to different countries or different continents around the world? And the answer to all these questions will have an impact on your answer. For instance, in South America, the inflationary rate is much higher than 2%. If you come into Europe or Canada, it's a little lower, right? So depending on where you go, the inflation rates are different. And once again, how are those markets where you want to go, how are they trending at the moment? Another example I'll give you, in India, inflation used to be 7-8%. Now inflation in India are 2-4%. It's half of what it used to be. And I want you to be mindful of what percentage you use, because it can have profound effects on how much income you will need when you retire. So until I drop my next video, you guys have some homework to do. You have 1 budget to prepare and 3 questions to answer. Try your best, be conservative, be good, and be safe. And remember, it all starts with a simple conversation.